The assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., an influential civil rights leader, occurred on April 4, 1968. Driven by his passion for equality and justice, Dr. King played a crucial role in the American civil rights movement during the 1950s and 60s. In today's video, we are going to explore the final days and hours of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. On February 1, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee, sanitation workers Echo Cole and Robert Walker jumped into the compactor area of their garbage truck seeking shelter from the heavy rains that moved in on that cold winter day. Tragedy struck, however, when a malfunctioning switch caused the compactor to suddenly engage, crushing and killing the two of them. Now, the deaths of Cole and Walker were the key factors leading to the sanitation workers' strike that would begin on February the 12th, 1968, when most of the 1,300 African-American men from the Memphis Department of Public Works refused to work and staged a walkout until their demands for safer work conditions and fair wages were met. Now, sadly, these events would lead indirectly to the assassination of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. a few weeks later. At the time, Dr. King was working on the Poor People's Campaign when his friend Reverend James Lawson called on him to lend his support to the sanitation workers. Dr. King, seeing that the issues facing the sanitation workers mirrored some of the same injustices that he was hoping to change with his Poor People's Campaign, put the planning of the Poor People's March on Washington on hold and traveled to Memphis. Dr. King arrived in Memphis on March the 18th, and the next day he delivered a speech to a crowd of nearly 25,000 attendees. In this speech, King expressed the value of the sanitation workers, telling them that whenever you are engaged in work that serves humanity and is for the building of humanity, it has dignity and it has worth. King announced that he would return to lead a march through the city on March the 22nd. However, due to a massive snowstorm, it was rescheduled for the 28th. Dr. King returned to Memphis on March the 28th to join Reverend Lawson leading a march in support of the strike. However, violence erupted early in the demonstration when suspected members of the Black Organizing Project, better known as the Invaders, armed with clubs, pipes, and bricks, began breaking windows to storefronts along the march route and started looting. Police immediately began to stop the riot by moving into the crowd with nightsticks, mace, and tear gas. Over 280 individuals were arrested and 60 were reported injured, most of them black. During the chaotic events taking place, a 16-year-old boy named Larry Payne was killed by police officer Leslie Jones. Carrying place cards that read, "I am a man," strikers returned to their daily demonstrations the next day. Dr. King met with members of the Invaders who claimed that their group did not instigate the violence, but did not deny that their members did not participate in the riot or the looting. Dr. King returned to his home in Atlanta and contemplated not going back to Memphis. After a meeting with fellow Southern Christian Leadership Conference leaders, Dr. King decided that he needed to return to see through his commitment to the striking sanitation workers. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s last 48 hours were marked by significant events and emotions. On April 3, 1968, Dr. King arrived in Memphis after his flight was delayed due to a bomb threat. Now, death threats were nothing new to Dr. King, but over the last few months they were increasing and becoming more credible. Memphis city officials had also sought an injunction in court to prevent Dr. King from leading another march. King was feeling ill with a sore throat and exhaustion when he arrived at the Lorraine Motel and checked into room 306 late that afternoon. A severe thunderstorm rolled into Memphis that evening, and a rally was scheduled at the Bishop Charles Mason Temple that night as well. Expecting a low turnout due to the raging storm and feeling under the weather, Dr. King sent his chief lieutenant and friend, Reverend Ralph Abernathy, in his place. When Abernathy arrived at the church, he found the crowd much larger than what they had been expecting without the storms. Abernathy telephoned King, asking him to come and deliver a few words. Dr. King agreed. Speaking for nearly 40 minutes with few notes, Dr. King delivered his renowned "I've Been to the Mountaintop" speech. In this address, he expressed his commitment to the civil rights movement despite the many challenges that it faced. The speech conveyed a sense of urgency and determination, as well as acknowledgement of the potential for violence and threats against his life. King's words resonated deeply with the audience, reflecting his unwavering dedication to justice and equality. As he neared the close of his speech, Dr. King's words turned prophetic.
I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Following the speech, King retired to room 306 at the Lorraine Motel. As he prepared for the next day, which would include a planned march in support of the striking sanitation workers, King was informed by his aides that due to safety concerns, they were considering canceling the demonstration. However, King was resolute in his decision to proceed with this march, emphasizing the importance of standing up for the rights of the marginalized and the oppressed. In the early hours of April 4, 1968, Dr. King awoke to face the events that would ultimately shape the course of history. Despite the ongoing threats to his life, King maintained his commitment to nonviolent protest and social change. As he went about his morning routine, he was accompanied by close associates and supporters who shared in his dedication to the civil rights movement. Later that afternoon, a few minutes before 6 p.m., Dr. King left room 306 with Reverend Abernathy to have dinner at a local minister's home. While standing on the balcony outside of his room, Dr. King chatted with the people in the courtyard below. Across the street was the Bessie Brewer's rooming house, whose back windows faced the Lorraine Motel. Earlier that day, a man named James Earl Ray checked into room 5B of the Bessie Brewer's rooming house. Ray, who had spent the day stalking Dr. King, moved into position in an upstairs common-use bathroom with a rifle. At 6:01, a shot rang out. Dr. King was assassinated by a single gunshot. This devastating event sent shockwaves across the nation and around the world, triggering an outpouring of grief and rage. King's untimely death was a profound loss to the civil rights movement and to humanity as a whole. In the aftermath of Dr. King's assassination, his legacy lived on, inspiring countless individuals to continue his work and advocate for equality and justice. His message of peace, love, and nonviolent resistance continued to resonate, transcending the boundaries of race, nationality, and creed. In the years following his death, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s impact remains. His words and actions continue to inspire. The last hours of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life were a testament to his unwavering dedication to the cause of civil rights. Despite the threats and challenges that he faced, King remained steadfast in his commitment to nonviolent protest and social change. His tragic assassination robbed the world of a visionary leader, but his legacy endures as a source of inspiration and hope for future generations. To learn more about the life and death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., head to your local public or school library for one of the many books about him, or check the description box below for links to the National Park Service's Civil Rights website, as well as the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee at the Lorraine Motel. If you enjoyed this video, please share and subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, thank you from the History and Heritage Explorers. Until next time, keep on exploring.